we're going to do this introduction. We're going to talk about why, right? That's always, I'm sure if I'm tracking correctly with everybody I've ever done in any of these presentations, why do we have to do this? Then we're going to talk about who is Franwell, where do we come from. I'm assuming everybody here has years and years of experience. We talk about why only to help you understand our perspective, where we're coming from, our education and understanding level, so that you can gauge an understanding level of what we know and how it's relevant to what your experience is. We're going to talk about the system, what it does at a high level. We're going to talk about the security of the information that you have and how your information is being handled. We're going to talk about RFID, why was RFID chosen. We're going to talk about integration with other software systems, point-of-sale systems, management information systems, material resource planning systems, enterprise resource planning systems, different types of technology that you may use. And then we're going to talk about what we're going to do for training and support. It's difficult to be a pioneer. It's very difficult to be the first one. And I'd like to remind everybody that this is state number 3. Okay? The trail is not worn down yet. The grass is still there. There's not even a dirt path yet, and you guys are just starting on that point, okay? And I'd like to remind everybody that even though this is Oregon, you really are tied to what's going on in Colorado, what's going on in Washington State, what's going on in Alaska, what's going on in Washington, D.C. One negative impact in one location is still felt as a ripple effect by everybody else, okay? So it's important when you consider that to consider your place in this and how it's going to impact you. There's 2 key things I want everybody to take away from this on why is this important. Number 1, there's federal guidance. Now, how many people are familiar with the Cole Memo? The key takeaway from that is this statement: a system adequate to the task must not only contain robust controls and procedures on paper, it must also be effective in practice. This is the government's way of saying, we want you to do something. We're going to leave you alone, right? That's what Cole said. We're going to leave you alone. The Department of Justice is very clear about that. But you have to have systems in place to protect certain things. And it must not just be a paper system. It must be effective in practice. Okay? What are those things? Well, Cole specifically outlined 8 different areas that they wanted to make sure were protected from a federal perspective, okay? They didn't want the distribution of marijuana product to minors. Obviously, just like alcohol, just like anything else, right? They didn't want it going to minors. They didn't want the revenue being diverted to illegal enterprises or organized crime, okay? They wanted state-authorized marijuana activity, all right? They wanted the state to oversee it and manage it. They wanted the cultivations and the distribution. They didn't want it on federal lands, on federal property, okay? They wanted to address adverse public health conditions. They wanted, once again, federal lands. They wanted marijuana possession to be controlled to the people that are allowed to get it and distributed to people allowed to get it. But they didn't want marijuana coming in from illegal entities, organized crime, stuff coming across the border, okay? This is the guidance. This is what Metrc is developed on. This is where we developed it. We developed it, we actually talked to our lawyer about it and said we wanted to make something that was an affirmative defense for a state. If the Department of Justice came in and said, what are you doing? This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing things. This is the guiding principle behind what Franwell did when we developed Metrc, okay? The second issue that we're trying to do with Metrc is public safety, okay? Recalls happen about anywhere from 8 to 12 recalls happen every month in the United States, every month. The marijuana industry will not be any different. You got recalls for everything. It's just, it is the nature. When you make hundreds of thousands or millions of anything, eventually you're going to run into problems. So I look at marijuana just like I look at any other product, okay? From a producer's perspective, making a consumer product, public safety should be one of your major concerns, okay? The law of averages will tell you that somebody will eat a marijuana product and get sick or even die. Odds are where it's going to come from is an edible product, right? Something that's produced, processed. It's all about making safe, good products for general consumption, okay? Cucumbers are just a plant. It's just a harmless little cucumber. 4 people died, 732 people were made sick, 150 people were put in the hospital. It's just a cucumber. What's the big deal? It's a cucumber. People died, okay? And I was sounding a little bit preachy. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to put this into perspective. Why is this important for us? This is your consumer market. When I talked about Colorado, we're Oregon. I heard it all over the place. We're Oregon, that's Colorado. We're different than them. Yeah, you might be, but you're tied to them, okay? Something goes wrong in Washington State, and something like this happens, they're going to point at the marijuana industry. They're not going to say, well, that's Washington's problem. Oregon's going to be very different. They're going to say this is a marijuana issue, okay? And by the way, there already was one recall in the marijuana industry. Does anybody know what it was? It was a little Tootsie Roll type thing. It was made with non-commercial grade food equipment, and it was moldy. There also was one more that I was thinking of, and that was a soda manufacturer. There's nothing wrong with the product, but they put too much yeast in it, and the cans were exploding. But those things happen, okay? And this is why it's important. We are a part of the industry. We're a part of you guys. We are here to help. We want to make this successful. We want you guys to be able to do it right, but it's important that it's done that correctly, okay? And this is a benefit to you, all right? Because there are not massive recalls in the marijuana industry. There aren't these things happening, and we want to prevent them from happening. So the marijuana industry is successful, right? I'm in this with you guys. Franwell's in this with you guys. The OLCC's in this with you guys. We're all part of this industry together. Franwell was not a company that looked up one day and said, boy, we just want to be in the marijuana industry. We were in the pharmaceutical industry, and we were in the fresh produce industry. That's where our founder comes from. That's where the majority of our experience came from. We were tracking berries, strawberries, blueberries. We were doing some oranges and some other things. We were a tracking company, tracking technologies, enterprise resource management for the food industry. We were tracking fish and other kinds of stuff as well. And we also dabbled in the pharmaceuticals. In the time that we've been up and deployed in the last 2 years, we've tracked over 4 million plants. We've tracked over 3 million packages, and we have over 16,000 people operating in the system in Colorado. We have over 2,600 licensees. Okay, and the one thing I'm very proud of, in 2014, our system that's up operating and up in the cloud has had a total of 8 minutes of downtime. Not one event was more than 4 minutes long out of all those days. So we were better than Six Sigma on our uptime, because we realized we can't just shut our systems down and leave you guys out. It's a regulatory compliance system, right? You guys are all going to be required to be in there. Well, we have to make it available to you. If you're operating at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to do your inventory, we have to give you that ability. So we are up, okay? And we use this little group of guys here in the corner specifically for that reason, because one of them's you, one of them's us, one of them's the OLCC, and support. I got an extra body in there. The point is, we're all in this together, and if there's only a couple of takeaways, the number one takeaway that I want to have on your list is that we, Metrc Franwell, is here to support you, okay? We have a dedicated group of people, US-based, real-time on the phone, not voicemail, that are here to support you. I've been to over 100 facilities in the last 2 years. I have never said no to a single company that's asked me to come see them. Okay, we only work as part of a regulatory compliance solution, all right? We support the industry to whatever level that y'all need us to. Metrc is cloud-hosted, online reporting system used by everybody in the licensed entity in a state. And we built the system based on rules and regulations. So everything that's in the system will be by regulation and rule. We're not going to do something in there that's not by rule. And when the rules change, when the legislation's done and the OLCC says we need to make a change, we make a change because it needs to be compliant with the rules. Okay. So, with that basic understanding, what makes up Metrc? Okay. Metrc is made up of the first piece is a web UI, a web user interface. It's web. If you have the ability to navigate through Facebook or, Google, you're pretty much set. Okay? There's a secure web service that allows us to integrate with the state systems and outside systems. There's an application programming interface or an API that allows us to communicate with those outside companies. There's a database, there's some reporting tools, and you have two sides to it. You have the state side and you have the industry side. And then there's a mobile device application, a application available for use if you choose to use it, if you want it, for a mobile application to use technology, but it's not required. This is how I want you to envision Metrc. Metrc is a giant office building, okay? Everybody, every licensee in Metrc has their own office. You have your own access control card, your own key, you go into your office, you do your work. There's all kinds of other offices in there. They don't see your information, you don't see your information, okay? You don't even pass them in the hallway, all right? Below the ground is all the cloud server hardware up there, making sure that the data's up and running and that it's all tight. You have the OLCC, they own the building. They're the managers and the landlords. And Franwell, we're the maintenance people. Make sure there's toilet paper in the bathroom, that the floors are clean, that the lights stay on. We just keep the building maintained. That's our job. All right, so now we understand what it is. How does Metrc actually work? Okay, there's two sides to it. There's the regulatory side, which has the licensing, the inspecting, the auditing, the enforcing, the analyzing, collecting data. That's their stuff, right? Then we have your side of it, which is the industry side of it. This little diagram took us 6 months to create. 6 months worth of work, thousands of dollars in travel expenses, and all this time spent in all of these cultivation facilities, dispensing facilities, to come up with this graphic. That graphic is our understanding of the marijuana industry, okay? The first thing we do is you take a seed or a clone, right? You cut something off a plant, you make an immature plant group, right? Familiar to everybody? Okay. Then you're gonna move into veg, right? You're gonna kill some of them that die, because they die, right? If you're an outdoor grower, they're gonna spend a lot more time in veg, right? Then they're gonna go to flowering. From flowering, you're gonna harvest. From harvest, you're gonna package. From package, you're gonna transfer. Your transfer can be a testing transfer. It can be going to an infusing process. It can go to a lab for testing. You could be selling bud or trim to a processor, right? But you're going to transfer it someplace from the cultivation. It's going to leave, right? From there, it's going to either be processed, it's going to be tested, or it's going to be sold. Does anybody have a process that's different than that? So that is how Metrc is made up. I like to drill down into things into more detail. I don't like to go to the bottom and try and swim back up. It's too confusing. So I go through this process. This is how the system operates. This is our combined knowledge, and this is what Metrc is doing. It's a compliance system. This is what you're going to be reviewed on. Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? Are you counting for everything? Are you correct? Are you not correct, right? So we want to make sure that you're trained. Those trainings are usually done live. Some of them we're doing through recorded, but the support is always live on the phone. Support's done either through a support ticketing system, through email, or direct phone calls, okay? So you'll get a log into the system after you take the training. You log into the system, you hit the link, you type in your password, you type in your name, you'll get a Metrc ID number, and then you've got yourself set up in the system. Then you're gonna set up your business profile, okay? What is my business profile? You're gonna add your facilities, whatever you call it, right? You're gonna add your employees, just put them in there. Some of them you can authorize to work in the system, others you just put them in there because you're employees, just so you can keep track of them, all right? You're gonna add all your strains, you're gonna add your items, and you're gonna add your locations. Now, location is a room or a row. Where are you putting plants? Because you're gonna be moving them around, okay, right? They're gonna go from veg to flowering to harvest. Usually they're changing rooms, right? Unless you're an outdoor grower and you're not moving a 17-foot tall plant that's got, you're just gonna leave it, right? But you're gonna have a location. Each type of facility has different permissions, right? A processor doesn't have plants, right? They're bringing in shake trim, right? Usually shake trim, all right? They're going to process it. So they don't have plants and they don't do sales. I mean, they don't do sales to people, right? Yes, you have sales and wholesale transfers and things like that. When we talk about sales, we're talking direct sales to consumers. Then you have reports that everybody has the ability to transfer. So these are just general permissions of what it looks like and how the facilities are set up, okay? Then you're going to set up your product profile. Your product profile is based on the first thing, which is categories. The state controls the categories. But you're going to have these categories. You're going to have buds, concentrate by each, right? Some of you guys are going to want to take your shatter, or you're going to want to take your oil. You're going to want to put them in 1 gram vials, 2 gram vials, however you want to do it, right? But you're going to want to categorize them by concentrate by each. You're going to have extracts. You're going to have extracts by each. You're going to have immature plants. You're going to have edibles, topicals, shake trim by strain, right? We know the processors, they'll take any shake, whatever. Some others want to make sure they got Blue Dream or Purple Kush or Golden Goat, and they want to keep it all separate. However you want to do it, you're going to have categories. Then you're going to set up your items. Your item names are used to identify what is packaged into that package, all right? And you're going to set your quantity, your unit of measure, all this basic stuff, okay? All these things are necessary for the traceability that we talked about, okay? Now, let's talk about tagging and tracking. Now, remember, I said this is all up in the cloud, okay? You go in there. This process usually takes people, and this is the heavy lift, what I was just talking about, okay? That should take you maybe 1 person a half a day, okay? It is not a heavy lift. It really isn't. Metrc was designed to be as simplistic as possible, but to be as broad as possible, to be able to make it easy and simple and clean, because we know you have a job to do. You have a job to run, and operating in Metrc is not what you're paid for, right? You got a job to do. We get that. And said, I come from a manufacturing background. Everything is about throughput and time out. Time is money. Metrc has 2 revolutionary things to it. And they're not really all that revolutionary. What makes Metrc extremely effective is 2 things. Number 1, everybody's operating in the system, right? Everybody's in it. That creates a whole host of wonderful things. It gives the ability to do tracking and recalls at a level that no other industry can do, okay? The other thing is the state, through Metrc, controls the serialization, okay? Serialization is the key. Okay. How many people have some third-party software that you're using or some software that you're using to manage your business right now? Okay. Let's say all of you had one system that was individually sold to you by everybody. And they said, okay, well, here you go. What number do you want to start with for your very first product? Who's going to start with 1? Everybody, right? My first product is going to be 000001. Okay. If something goes wrong, how do I know your 1 from your 1 from your 1? If you're a processor and you got shake trim and every one of them was named 00001, but one of you guys used one pesticide that wasn't right, how do I know which one it was? Right? Everything has to be trashed. There's no way to recall it. There's no way to understand what it is. We provide the numbers for you. Here's your numbers. You get the block of numbers in the system. You don't enter anything in. You're not going to be sitting in there pounding out a big 24-digit number every time. You're going to get the numbers from the system. It's going to provide them to you, and then you're going to assign those numbers to whatever you want. But they're just a big bucket of numbers waiting for you to do something with it. That way, nobody's stuff is the same, and everything tracks individually and uniquely. Okay? Think of it like this. If you have a license plate issued by the state and you stick it on your car, you get in an accident, you get a new car. What do you do with the license plate? You stick it on the new car, right? Can you do that with a VIN number on your car? No, a VIN number is unique, right? Your vehicle identification number on your car is unique. Don't look at these tags as a license plate. The key to this system being effective is the serialization and the fact that you guys are going to take those numbers and you're going to pass them around to each other, right? So the interconnection of the system and the serialization is the power, all right? That's what makes this great. How great? If one of you gave me one ID number, so let's say you created a package of shake trim and you took that package of shake trim and you tested it and you took it and you turned it into an oil and sold it to you and you turned it into a candy bar. Any one of those numbers, any one of them, and I'll know every one of them. And then when you transfer it out to 20 different people out here into all those retail stores, anybody got sick and came back and said, this thing made me sick. Any one of those numbers, and I can track all of those numbers. And I can do it in under 30 minutes. With what we can do, we can pull those recalls. We can tell you where they're at. They can be voluntary, mandatory, whatever. But the point is that serialization and that interconnection is what gives you that power. All right? That's why the system works. And the only thing that's amazing or miraculous about it is the fact that y'all are working together in one system. And remember, this is not, it's not, 1984 George Orwell, everybody staring over the top of everybody. This is designed to protect the industry. It's designed to protect you guys. Okay, there's only two kinds of tagged inventory in Metrc. There's package tags and there's plant tags. So I talked about this a little bit. I'm going to just put this slide up so you guys can understand it. So in a graphical format, it's a little easier. You start with immature plant. That's where you can identify it in the system, right? When it's a clone, we don't put tags on clones because clones die, right? You might be awesome and you get 90% clones. Some other people not so awesome, they're getting 50% clones, right? 50% of their clones are dying, right? So I've seen it all, okay? We don't start tagging them at that. You can start tagging them at veg. We've got a little plant, 8 inches, 12 inches tall. It's easy to stick a tag in it. When it's 10-gallon pot and it's 4 foot tall, still in veg, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. And if I got a plant that's 5 feet deep and I got to pull all those out to put a tag on it, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. You can put them on at veg. Rule says you can put them on at flower. Your call, right? I don't see you're not going to save much money in tags. From your immature vegging and flowering plant, it's going to be tagged with one of these unique ID tags. It's going to go to a harvest batch. You do not tag a harvest batch. You just give it a unique name, okay? From there, you're going to cut it, you're going to weigh it, you're going to trim out of it, you're going to make your flour, your shake trim, you're going to package out of it, right? You're going to package, then you're going to transfer, and you're going to receive. The harvest batch is uniquely identified by name, not with a tag, whatever name you want to give it. Then you put a package tag on it, and then you can send it wherever you want to. That's all done inside the system. So the plant tag explanation, what is it? The first thing I want to cover on this is this. Everybody's hung up on the term RFID. That's an RFID tag. Well, there's an RFID component in it, but it's multimodal. There's 3 ways of using the tag. That is a barcode. It is a standard UCC 128 barcode. The rest of the information is human readable. So if you don't want to use a barcode scanner, that barcode is what that long number is. Okay, the only thing on that is that barcode, that human readable number. You're going to have your license number on it. You'll have the application identifier, which for everybody in this room is going to be recreational. You're going to have the order date for the tags, and you have the plant identification number, okay? The system generates the ID numbers, right? Well, are these reusable? No, they're not reusable. It's a VIN number. General Motors, Chrysler, all those companies, they do not use the VIN numbers again. You're going to use it one time, okay? Because that number can't be repeated. It can't be reused. These come as a blank roll. They look more like this on the back until they get printed, all right? The printing puts all this on the front, and it encodes the information, the RFID, that information on the tag. So the next question is invariably is, Why RFID? Why do we have to use RFID? So, how many people want an inspector to walk around, raise your hand, and bumping into your plants and digging through your plants to scan a barcode? Nobody? You don't want that? Okay. That's why you have RFID. It's your request, okay? These RFID tags have a 10 to 15 foot read range. They do not require line of sight. And I will show you this in the demonstration over there. I can scan all the way up to this front row without ever having to get into the plants. That's why RFID. It was a request of the state through the industry. This is what the plants look like in an immature stage, if you choose to tag them at that level. We provide this little nifty stake. It took a lot of engineering work and a bunch of money in molds to make this thing right, okay? It had to be strong enough that it would hold a plant if you stick it in the dirt, but then weak enough so you could turn around and wrap it around the plant, right? So you can see it in the dirt and then you can see it wrapped around the plant. You just push it through the holes and you stake it down. There are 4 notches in the little strap so that as it gets bigger, if you want to start trimming it, you can cut one of the little knobs off and you can push it in and keep using it. Plant tracking. Basically what I already told you. You're going to go from an immature phase to a vegging phase, to a flowering phase, to a harvest batch. Okay? You see right here is that unique ID number. Right? Now we've assigned it, right? We went from a group of clones, 10, 1, 100, how many you make. You're going to pull them out and say, okay, 6 of them, 8 of them, 10 of them died, whatever it was. You're going to kill them off. And you're going to take that group, and now you're going to turn them into uniquely ID'd plants. All right? What really happens to a plant? It really only has 3 things it can do. You can sell it, it's going to grow, or it's going to die. Can anybody do anything with a plant other than that? No. At this phase, I mean, you can trim off of it, right? But not yet. It's still too small. Okay? All right. You change the growth phase, you put the tags on it. For some reason, if you lose the tag, I don't know why, you have the locking mechanism, it shouldn't go off, but we give you the ability to replace a tag if you lose it. Okay? Then you change the room, or you can manicure, or you can harvest. Okay? But you're just going to grow through the growth phases. All right? So back to the simplicity of Metrc. Remember, I told you your big, heavy lift is going to be like a half a day getting your facility set up. How often do you move clones? Once every 3 or 4 weeks? 5 weeks maybe, right? So how often are you going to go into the system and move clones? All right? It literally takes you about 15 to 20 seconds in Metrc to move your clones. You're not going to have a dedicated Metrc person. You're not going to have all these extra resources, okay? The staff that you have will be able to go in and put plant tags on them. It takes just a couple of seconds, all right? It is not a heavy lift to do this. It's very simplistic, okay? And you're not going to, if it's many times, like I said, I haven't met many people that can take an immature plant and put it in veg in 3 days. Now, if you have that ability to get a plant to grow that fast, then yes, you're going to spend more time in Metrc. But from what I've seen, it takes weeks to get a plant to go from immature to veg, and then another bunch of weeks to go by, right? 12, 14 weeks on an indoor grow. For your outdoor growers, yeah, 9 months, right? So you've got about a day a month, maybe. All right? The harvest tracking, okay? Now we've taken our plants, you've cut your plant, you weighed your plant, you're going to throw all your stuff into the harvest. You're going to take some waste out of it. You're going to leave it in cure, right? You're going to cut them. You're going to hang them. Some people use nets. Some people, I've seen screen doors stacked, right, on shelves, and then the product's all laid out so it can cure properly. I've seen a bunch of different ways, right? You're going to lay your harvest out there. You're going to give it a name. If you don't give it a name, Metrc's going to give it one for you, okay? But it has to be a unique name, because that unique name is what ties the plants. Now what you see here in the bottom is all of those plants that you made that harvest out of are going to be located in that harvest batch identification number, okay? They're all in there. And then you have the type of harvest it was, the room it was harvested in, the weight, whether it was put on hold or not. Holds are going to come from testing, and I'll talk about testing in a bit, and then the batch date. Most of the companies that I've worked with don't have a lot of manufacturing experience, and I'm a big manufacturing guy, I said that, okay? There's a ton of statistical data in here that nobody asks us for information. If I were in the audience, I would be all over me about reports, okay? What's my harvest yields? You know, what if I'm doing I'm going to do a statistical process sampling methodology, or I'm going to do a design of experiment. I want to know how, if I take 3 groups of, you know, golden goat over 3 different cycles, what's my moisture loss? What's my harvest yield? What's my waste? You guys sell every strain for the same price, right? No. Why not? Different electricity uses, different water usage, different materials used to grow, different yields. They should be different priced, right? You don't pay the same thing for a cucumber that you pay for a tomato, right? It takes different time, different processes. The data in here that you're effectively required to put in here by rule and statute is a tremendous value to you as a company for your own benefit. If you can run reports off of this, which you can, it's your data, I don't care, do whatever you want with it, okay? But you should be able to use this data to improve your process efficiencies. That's how the process works. You're gonna harvest, you're gonna weigh, you're gonna waste, you're gonna package, you're gonna transfer, and you're gonna finish. Does anybody have something different than that? Packages. So now we've taken our little plants, now we're gonna make a package out of them. Or we processed them and we're gonna now make packages, right? The package tag. The package tag is twofold, all right? There's 2 pieces. There's the top piece, which has the RFID component, okay? And then there's a tear-off strip at the bottom. The big piece goes with the big package. The reason we put the tear-off strip on there is if you get that package into your store and you want to peel off the bottom and stick it on the bar, on the bottom of the jar of shake or the jar of buds, right? You're gonna pull out of it. If you want to do that association on the jar, that's there for you, okay? It's just a convenience. It's a secondary piece that you can use for whatever purposes you want. Some of the manufacturers keep it themselves and they put it on their own tickets. It's your tag, do whatever you want with it, okay? But it's there for your convenience, okay? Package definition is any amount of marijuana or infused products that may be sold, processed, or transferred and must be placed into 1 or more containers, each having a unique ID created in Metrc. I want to be clear on this. This is not an item level tracking thing. You're not going to put one of these big blue stickers on every single candy bar. Is anybody under that impression that every single tiny thing has to have a Metrc tag on it? Good. Okay. You don't. All right. It could be a big 10-pound package, right? Metrc is more, at this point, it's more of a lot and batch tracking mechanism, okay? The packages are tracked in Metrc. You can see the history. Everything has a history in Metrc. It stays in Metrc forever and ever and ever, or 6 years by state rule, okay? Everything is in there, and it's held on to. Once again, for all of you business owners, now you can look and say, hey, who moved these plants to this room? When did they do it? What was the time frame? You got all this data in there that you can mine and harvest to make sure that your processes are working and you know who's doing well and who's not doing well. And all right, it really can be a business management tool. So there's a benefit, there's a huge benefit in for you. Transfers. A transfer must be created any time a package moves from one facility to another. Okay, remember I told you you're really not putting a lot of data in Metrc? Really, the only thing that you're putting in is like weights and things like that. The ID numbers you're not typing in. Okay, if I create a package of shake trim and I sell it to a producer, okay, when I create that package ID number through the transfer manifesting processes is now given to the producer or the processor, okay? That package is moving in the system, that ID number is moving in the system from my facility to somebody else's. So they're not putting a new tag on it. That package is going from here through manifesting into their system. When you create the transfer manifest, it puts it on the manifest. When you hit the transfer button, it goes over. They select the receive button and it dumps into their inventory. If you've ever had any experience in retail, this is very similar to what major retailers doing with what they call an advanced ship notice. When you create a travel manifest, the person you're shipping it to, it automatically, because this is a real-time cloud system, right? It's all up in the sky, all right? It's going to show up in their system, and they'll see it as an incoming transfer, and they'll look down the incoming transfer list. So for all you that are selling product, or for the processors, there's actually a huge benefit. This is one of the coolest things about Metrc from that standpoint. You can look and see what you're expecting to get. You can call up the person sending it to you and say, this is right or not, okay? And if it's not, then you can change it in the system before they actually get it, okay? We'll show you this more, but it's a really cool feature. But it's what is necessary so that that chain of custody exists so that everybody's inventory is right. So that ID number from me, when I transfer it out, is now going to be in somebody else's inventory. They are now responsible for it, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. You can get a transfer manifest coming in. You see the transfer manifest. And then you will see all the packages on the manifest. And then if you look on that manifest and it all looked right, but something's wrong and you don't like it, let's say you got one package, you weigh the packages and go, it's supposed to be 16 ounces, it's 14 ounces. I'm not going to accept that package because I'm legally responsible for that 2 ounces. So you just hit the reject button. You don't have to reject the entire transfer. You can just reject that one package. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. When that happens, you hit that reject button, that package stays in the inventory of the company that created the transfer. All right? Once you hit the accept button, it's yours. You own it. So it is a legal transfer of the chain of custody. Okay? So make sure when you accept transfers that it's right. And all the transfers are tracked, right? You have all of this history. You have drivers that are transferring or et cetera, whoever's doing it, you can see the vehicle information, all that good stuff. It's all loaded in there. Lab test results, okay? Metrc tracks all the lab test results. The labs are required to put the test results into the system. All right? Now this is very important. And this is one that some people may have heartburn over it, but once again, it is a protection for the consumer and the industry. When you create a test package, so I'm going to take my 10 pounds, right? I've got my 10-pound harvest. I'm going to pull a gram out of my 10-pound. I'm going to create a little test package of 1 gram. It's going to have its own unique ID number. I'm going to transfer that to a lab. When I transfer that to the lab, that product is now on hold. The big 10-pound package is now on hold. Okay, until those test results come back as clean. When the lab puts it in as clean and passed, then the package is released and you can go on with your life. Okay? But that package can't be moved, sold, or transferred or done anything with it until the test results come back as clean. If the lab takes possession of the product, they create the package. They create the manifest, they ship it off. But that is once again, a protection. Who made the package? Okay? Now, there's a series of adjustments that you can make on a package if you need to. Denver, Colorado, wintertime is like dry as the Sahara Desert. You are going to have moisture loss. 8 hours in a van, transferring around the state, you're going to have some moisture loss. There's categories for moisture loss. There's categories for scale variances. There's categories for theft, which is not a good thing. But if, spoilage, waste, there's all kinds of different things in there. So if you have some variances, because marijuana varies, right? It's going to have some issues. So there are categories to capture those issues. The lab test results will be put in the system, it'll be freed up, and it'll go back. Reports. You have a report dashboard. Now, Metrc is run off of SQL Server reporting services, which is a big Microsoft platform, I hate it. It's something you have to be an engineer to do. My engineers love it. We have about 12 reports in there: sales, cultivation, transfers, and packages. Everything has a trend analysis that goes with it. Processors. For incoming packages used in intermediate processes such as making concentrates, you pull from an existing package and create a new package. Let me just show you this. Okay, this once again, how does this all work? How can we do these recalls or chain of custody to see how all this stuff works? It's very simple, really. Okay, cultivators. You're going to take your shake trim, right, and you're going to sell it. So I'm going to take my shake trim, 1 pound, 5 pounds, 10 pounds. It's going to have a tag on it, all right? And if I'm a processor, I'm going to get one from this guy, I'm going to get one from that guy, one from this guy, one from that. All this shake trim's coming from all over the place. They're going to take that, they're going to process it, they're going to juice it, they're going to make a new batch of concentrate, okay? That's going to get a new ID number on it. Why? Because that new ID number is going to encompass all the other ID numbers, right? So now I get my concentrate. Then I can start doing my production batches, okay? Now a production batch is going to be cookies, candy bars, you know, lemon bars, you know, whatever you're making, lollipops, right? But your shake trim, and I'm using, this is a small, this gets really big when you're talking about big volumes, right? Because it's not going to be 4 packages of shake trim, it's going to be like 40, 50, right? That's not going to be a little jar of concentrate. That's going to be like a gallon jug of concentrate. And you're not going to use that 1 gallon jug of concentrate in one batch of cookies. Now maybe you will if you're really small. So if you're processing that much and you got a gallon of concentrate over here, you're not going to use a gallon in one 12-ounce batch of cookies or 12 chocolate chip cookies, right? You're going to have all that concentrate being split amongst multiple different products, right? When I talked about how can we do a recall, how do we know that it's all being tracked properly? Everything gets packaged and everything gets a new number. This is how lot and batch tracking works. Right? That's how everything stays tied from one thing to another. Sales. Now, let's keep in mind, I'm going to get to the integration with your point of sale piece in just a couple minutes. If you were doing direct entry into Metrc, if you would put in sales, you're not going to have to go in and record every single sale. You record sales by package. So let's say I got a 1 pound package, and I'm going to take that 1 pound package, I'm going to drop it into a jar. Okay? Your total sales out of that package for the day would be input into Metrc, right? Not every single, I sold 2 grams here, I sold 4 grams there. You just say, I sold 12 ounces today at X dollars. You just put in that one sales number, and that's it. And it's all tracked by date. We talked about why RFID, right? Everybody's comfortable with that. Whether you agree with it or not, I'm happy to discuss if you don't agree with it. But, so how does it actually work? Okay. RFID stands for radio frequency identification. All right? Now, the RFID technology that we use is not this proprietary Franwell technology where we develop this tag and it's all ours and nobody else can do it. This is an ISO 18000 Part 6B. Okay? It's commonly referred to as EPC Gen 2 Class 1. It is a commercial off-the-shelf RFID technology that we're using. All right? It is the same one Walmart uses to track jeans. Kohl's department stores are using it to track socks and shoes and some other stuff. Boeing uses it, and Airbus are using it to track parts on airplanes. It is a commercial off-the-shelf technology. We incorporate it into the tag. All right? RFID is a little bit different. The reason it's different is because you can do more with it. There's a lot of power in what you can do with it, and it's very cool. But in order to do those things, you have to have software. The software that we're going to provide to you in the industry is at no charge. There's no charge for it. It's going to be a software application. We're going to give it to you, all right? It's going to come on a device. Everybody's either got an Android or an iPhone, right? Pretty much that's it, okay. An Android phone is not an Android phone is not an Android phone. If you go to get it from AT&T, it's got one set of software on it. If you go to Verizon, it's got another set of software on it, right? Every phone company has a slightly different version of Android, right? We've all seen that? Okay, so when we go to these handheld devices, they all have Windows Mobile 6 on them. But it's not Windows Mobile 6 the same way it's Windows Mobile 6 on every other device. So when we developed the software, we developed it on Windows Mobile 6, which is a standard Windows product. But every device is a little bit different. So everybody goes, well, which device, tell me what device I can go. You can go out and buy any device you want. If it's read an ISO 18000 Part 6B, it will read that tag. But it's not going to do anything else but read that tag, just like a barcode will. We're going to give you a software application that will do something a lot more powerful than just read the tag. So you can't bring your own device. That is, you can't bring your own handheld RFID reader. It won't work with an Oregon CTS program. Metrc will sell a handheld RFID reader optimized with the software, customized for Oregon CTS for a normal markup above cost. Metrc is developing a low-cost sled device, an RFID reader that can actually be paired with a smartphone. This is how the passive RFID works. The graphic works better than I can explain it. That's it. 10, 12 feet, no line of sight. Okay? You take through, walk through. How fast is it? One inspector we did, and he was fairly new, 615 plants in under 15 minutes. Okay? Try and do that with a barcode in 15 minutes. All right? Same room would have taken 3 inspectors about 2.5 to 3 hours to do. Okay? The study that we did with the University of Florida, one person can scan 4,000 RFID tags. That same 4,000 RFID tags would take 9 hours to do in barcode. That is a measure of performance improvement that is amazing. Now that's a straight barcode scan. If I had all my barcodes lined up and I just went ding, 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 right? RFID reads the tag and it goes, I'm done. Next. And if it misses one, you just scan back and it'll go, oh, there it is, I got it. So why RFID? Read range is 10 to 12 feet, maybe a little bit more, no line of sight, 8 to 10 times improvement. You're going to have improved accuracy. You're going to have faster compliance. You're going to have, you've got the ability to search and find things, which is really cool. Integration. If you already have a piece of software, all right, and you're already using it and you're happy with it, we are creating, well, actually, we already have created what is called an API, which is an application programming interface, okay? An application programming interface is designed to allow 2 pieces of software to communicate to each other, all right? It's like the UN, a bunch of people in booths with headsets on speaking different languages, converting it. All right, it allows these 2 softwares to communicate. I can put stuff into Metrc, I can post stuff into Metrc, and I can get stuff from Metrc, okay? It'll allow 2-way communication. Now, I've been harping on the fact that this is a regulatory compliance system. So I really, really appreciate what the OLCC has done. You are responsible for what you put into the system, right? If somebody from the OLCC comes in and they're going to go, I want to see your inventory, they don't care about whatever other software you're using. That's not what they're looking at. Before they head out, they're going into Metrc. So if you're using some other software and it's got an API and it's all pushing that data in there, that's great for you. But your Metrc account better be right, because that's what the state's looking at. What we're doing with the API and the API process is the OLCC is looking out for you. Now, I'm not saying anything about any third-party software company at all. Most of them are going to be great. You know, most of the people in the United States are great. Most companies are great. There's always some things out there that are a little sketchy. So to avoid the sketchy, we have a API process that's taking place. The third-party vendors have to go in. They have to register with Franwell. They have to take a Metrc training class. They have to pass a test. They have to take the API training class. They have to take an API training class test. And then they are given in what is called an API key. You as a vendor, if you want to use a third-party company, you can. You will have your own API key. The third-party company will also, after they've passed the test and all those things, they will get an API key. And then their API goes along with your API key. So they will have to go through all these steps, and they will have to be vetted and verified, and then they will have to sign an agreement that says, yes, I agree not to do these things, and make sure that your stuff is all clean. So that way, you guys are protected. All right? And that's a process that we've worked with the OLCC on, and I think it's great. Support. I've got the greatest support team, and I'm very fortunate to have them. Okay? They're very patient, very loving people. We support the industry. We want you guys to be successful. Please take that away from this in the biggest way. They're all dedicated. They're all US based. All right? We're going to have Oregon dedicated support. Last year, we handled over 21,000 phone calls, or 21,000 support tickets, 5,000 phone calls, 15,000 support tickets. Now, people will look at me and go, that's good. Stuff has to be terrible. 21,000 tickets? There's 2,600 people and 2,600 businesses operating in the system. That averages 8.9 phone calls per business per year. okay? We have 16,000 people registered in the system. That's 1.4 phone calls per person per year. I think we're doing pretty good, actually. So we're going to be there to support you guys in whatever way you need, and then you'll have the support desk. We do other things too if it's necessary, but we'll work with you if you got issues. Please write this down, www.metrc.com. Probably don't need to write it down, you can probably remember it, right? metrc.com. There is a page on there that says Oregon. The Oregon page has a specific thing for the API and instructions on what third-party vendors are supposed to do to get in compliance with the API if they want to participate. And then it has all the information that I know and have on what's going to go and transpire as far as testing classes, training classes, schedules, dates, all that stuff. If I know it, it will be on that page. I promise. And we're working with the OLCC to keep that as up to date as possible.